You are like a brother to me, and I will always love you as a friend. I think we should make it feel like show 1 or 2 instead of 7,000. A lot of Sajak is very dark these days. For 41 years, Pat Sajak was the host of Wheel of Fortune. That's not the whole truth. Everyone thought he quit because he was tired. In 2025, Pat finally told everyone what had really been going on. He talked about an issue with his health that almost killed him. He said that leaders made him feel pushed out, but he also said something that no one saw coming. His own family was shocked by something about his last days on set. It's not what you think that he left for. Born on October 26, 1946, in a poor area of Chicago, Pat Sajak never had much money and didn't know what the future held. His father, Leonard Anthony Sajak, worked long hours in a factory. His mother, Joyce Helen Sajak, tried to keep the family stable in a small house that never felt big enough. Pat's early years were rough because he was poor, and they changed the way he saw the world. His last name, which is Polish-American, was Sajak at first, but he later changed it to Sajak because he wanted to sound like everyone else. The boy's choice showed a lot about his desire to fit in. Who wanted to get better and wouldn't let a rough youth run his life. He slowly became stronger during those days, and he carried that strength with him everywhere. When he was 17, everything changed. WLS, one of Chicago's most popular stations, showed a live teen DJ event. Dick B&D was in charge, and Pat came in with hope and a steady voice. He won in some way. That was the first time he was in front of a real microphone. Putting on records every Saturday while people in the city heard. The room was small and the lights were simple, but Pat felt like something was going to happen. He talked and played songs on the radio, and he felt the thrill that only radio and TV can give. He never looked back after that first taste of radio. He worked different jobs to support his family after graduating from Farragut High School in 1964. Patrick Leonard Sajak was his given name at birth. In high school, he changed it because he didn't like how people mispronounced it. The switch looked small, but it meant a lot. This proved how much he wished to move on. Those years were full of work, school, and a steady push for something better. He didn't know any easy ways out, but he was driven, and that drive kept growing. To follow his interest in radio, he went to Columbia College Chicago in 1964. He had to get money. He worked as a desk clerk at the Palmer House Hilton until midnight. He worked at that desk all night, getting tips and saving every penny he could. He worked on his newsreads in his dorm room, where he would often whisper lines until the sun came up. Though that beat was tough, he learned how to time, tone, and be disciplined. That night, he learned how to stay awake when he was tired and how to speak clearly when he was sleepy. Those quiet hours helped shape the voice that people would later recognize on TV. There was another wound behind all that work. Early in his life, his parents got a split, and his mother married someone else, Walter Bacall. The change made things less stable, and Pat always wanted to feel safe but never got it. He had to find his own balance as an adult because of those mental cracks. He told himself that he would not go through the same hard times again. That promise made him want to work in a job where he could make something stable by hand. He thought more about his future and was careful about the risks he took after that. He got his first big break in 1966. WEDC hired him for the shift from midnight to 6 o'clock. He worked steady hours and only got $1.25 an hour to read the news. It was a small but real job. He learned how to stay calm even when there was no one else in the classroom and the city outside was asleep. It taught him how to connect with people he couldn't see. During that shift, he was in charge of a microphone and had to be responsible for it. Every week it helped him feel better. After that, the draft came. He came to the U.S. in 1967. Army when they were 20 years old. He first worked as a clerk typist because he thought that would keep him out of trouble. But someone saw that he had experience with private radio. He was then sent to the American Forces Vietnam Network in Saigon in October 1968. He was the host of the Dawn Buster morning show from October 1968 to December 1969. He played music, made jokes, and tried to lighten up the mornings for more than 500,000 American soldiers. Adrian Cronor made the call to Good Morning Vietnam famous, but Pat went on with the same spirit. His voice was a thin line between home and the war. He took Cronor's place as the Dawn Buster. Rocket attacks were popular in Vietnam during the time when the Tet Offensive was still going on. There was danger everywhere. Still, Pat sat behind the mic every morning and tried to make people feel better. He played music by the Beatles and James Brown and kept things light even when there was fear in the air. He wasn't in the front lines, but he lived close enough to feel the danger all the time. His station was hit once, so he and his friends had to hide. Those moments stuck with him and shaped the calm, gentle way he acted on TV later on. He did something wrong on December 25, 1969, that stayed with him for years. Pat heard to President Nixon's Christmas message for the troops through headphones while he was in charge of the broadcast. He turned on the music and flipped the switch because he thought Nixon was done. Nixon did pause, though, and then he kept talking. Pat found out too late. And chose not to come back during the show. A lot of troops didn't hear the rest of the president's welcome because of that. Pat felt bad about cutting off the President of the United States and later said he really felt bad about it. Even though he joked about it years later, it hurt to remember. He will never forget what he learned in Vietnam. He saw troops who were hurt and heard stories from men who had just come back from the battlefield. The fear never quite left him. He thought about those days for a long time after he got home. They made him hate situations with a lot of stress and helped him make faster, kinder TV later in life. At the same time, Vietnam made him smarter. Soldiers liked him because he could make them laugh and his voice made them miss home. People called him the voice of home, and he was quietly proud of that name. When he got out of the army in 1969, he had a clear head and an honorable release. He wanted to keep working in radio and TV. Even so, the stress he felt in Vietnam stayed with him for years. When things got too crazy around him, he felt stressed again. The sounds made him think of how war changes people, even if they never fire a shot. After the army, his first job was at WNBS Radio in Murray, Kentucky, in 1970. He made $200 a week as a top 40 DJ. The pay was low, and life was easy. He lived in an apartment with other reporters and got cheap food and rides from friends from time to time. The station was small and close to home, but Pat trained there. He worked on his voice, got a better sense of what people wanted, and learned how to stay calm even when he had a lot of work to do. Every week he learned something new. He went to WSM in Nashville not long after that. WSM had a strong 50,000 watt signal that could be heard all over the eastern United States. From 2:30 to 5 p.m., Pat was the afternoon show. That change put him in touch with up-and-coming country stars, some of whose names would go on to become legends. He talked to artists, watched their fans, and learned how to keep people's attention even on slow afternoons. He learned more about the world and how big markets work at that job. He made the switch to TV in 1974. He was hired by WSM TV to do voiceovers and short news segments for NBC's Today Show. Even though he was only on screen for a short time every day, that time taught him how to be brave in front of the camera. Executives noticed how cool and clear he was when he spoke. In 1975, he went to the weekend weather desk, where people loved him for being funny. He made jokes and gave predictions, and soon everyone knew who he was. That mix of cleverness and kindness would come to define everything he did. He worked with Dan Miller on a short late-night talk show in 1976. The show didn't have much money, but Pat could test his timing, jokes, and ability to handle being on stage live. The two got along well, and Pat learned how to easily hold a chat. That experience helped him become the guy everyone knows right away. He was ready for something bigger by 1977. Then he moved to Los Angeles and got a job at KNBC TV. There were more chances, the city was bigger, and the risks were higher. He switched jobs and now tells the weather for the West Coast's biggest TV market. It was that move that made everything else possible. That Nashville had. Los Angeles gave him the chance to rise and taught him how to deal with failure and stress. The story of Pat Sajak in Los Angeles began in 1977. His first job at KNBC was as a full-time weatherman, where he made $50,000 a year. That was a good start for a local newscaster. He kept things easy at first, but he soon found his voice. His weather predictions were full of jokes, like daytime highs and nighttime lows. People loved it. The jokes brought life and warmth to a normal part of the show. His style even gave Kenny Rogers' 1977 hit song, Daytime Friends, its name. A lot more people watched. The producers saw this. Over time, that weather desk turned into a door hole. He went through it with quiet ease. He was ready for more by 1980. He tried out for 2 pilots of game shows that year. Try Your Luck and Mental Games. Both projects failed before they even aired, but the people who worked on them liked him. During those trial tapings, he kept the contestants calm, made them smile, and had a natural rhythm that was hard to teach. His name started to get passed around between directors, even though the shows didn't do well. Hollywood moves slowly sometimes, but times like these start to build pressure, and soon that pressure turns into a chance. Still, not everything went his way. He had already been turned down for a show pilot in 1978, it never made it past the first stage. Getting turned down early hurt, so he had to do any work he could find. Little recording jobs and voiceovers for ads helped him save money over time. His side jobs helped him get to the point where he was worth $100,000 by 1981. That money wasn't just cash. It helped him stay steady. When everyone else seemed to be going after the same dream, it kept him going. He learned how to wait, how to keep going, and how to change things without giving up. Then it happened, the moment that could have ended right then. In 1981, he met Merv Griffin through people he knew at KNBC. Griff thought he would be a good fit for Wheel of Fortune after Chuck Woolery quit, but Fred Silverman from NBC told him no. That Sajak was too close to home. It was possible for that to end everything, but Griffin stood his ground. He wouldn't start taping until the network said it was okay. NBC only hired Sajak after firing Silverman. That was the first time someone really fought for him, and it changed his whole future. It can take someone else believing in you more than you believe in yourself to really turn things around. He finally showed up on Wheel of Fortune for the first time on December 28, 1981. He was scared. If you watch those early shows, you can see it. The crowd didn't get into it right away, and his voice was a little shaky. It even lost watchers because they were still interested in Woolery. But Sajak kept getting used to the part. Calmed down. He laughed more. As the weeks went by, he got used to the show, and fans slowly started to follow. The room soon felt lighter. He had earned enough trust by that summer to keep the show going. He learned something from that slow climb. A rough beginning does not mean a bad end. When he took over the nighttime national show in 1983, things really changed. At that time, the show was only seen in 40% of the country, which seemed like a small share. Things changed when he teamed up with Vanna White, though. It was in 70% of the country by January 1984. In just 1 year, 10 million people watched it every day. By 1986, it had the most viewers of any broadcast show in the United States. It was soft and funny, and it drew in people who just needed something to make them feel better after a long day. They became a part of American evenings without even trying. Will went from having a hard time to being unbeatable. There was a lot to do during those busy years. He was the host of both the afternoon NBC show and the nighttime syndicated show from 1983 to 1989. In Culver City, he often recorded up to 5 shows a day. He recorded more than 20 shows some weeks. That job paid him a big $250,000 a year, which was a lot for a game show host in that era. He and Vanna White worked hard on every track with the same high energy. Because they did it every time, Will became a societal norm. It felt safe, warm, and like home, so people watched. Then something happened in 1984 that changed how people saw him. Someone buzzed too early during one puzzle. Sajak lost it. He yelled, "Wait your turn." It was all over the newspapers and morning shows. Some people thought he went too far. It was the first big problem he had ever had. But it also showed things about him that people had never seen before. The fact that he was direct and funny made people want to keep watching. He was easy to relate to because he made mistakes like everyone else. He did one of the most famous game show pranks ever with Alex Trebek that same year. They switched places. Trebek was the host of Wheel of Fortune. Sajak ran Jeopardy! The move was shown as a joke on April Fool's Day. Sajak did badly on Jeopardy! And even lost $5,000 on Wheel. During the bit. It worked out really well. Fans loved seeing both men do things that were outside of their comfort zones. It also made everyone remember how closely the two shows were linked. People still talk about that swap as one of the funniest tricks ever seen on a game show, even after all these years. His job kept taking him to new places. He played a Buffalo newscaster in Airplane 2 in 1982, right before he became a rising star. It was a short but funny appearance. He made up lines that made fun of weather reporting on the spot. He made $10,000 for that short time on TV. Even though it was a small part, it showed that his humor was good for more than just game shows. Wheel of Fortune had reached a new level by 1985. Plus it beat Jeopardy! In reruns, and 30.7 million people watch it every day on average. It was more than twice as much Jeopardy! Is listening to. Together, Sajak and Vanna White were one of the best TV pairs. Every family in the country made Will a part of their nightly routine because of how well his dry wit and her calm charm matched each other. What a game show could be changed because of it, but his success did not keep him safe. In 1989, he moved into late-night TV with the Pat Sajak Show. He made $60,000 a week for CBS, which also spent more than $4 million on a new set. There were big people. Joe and Janet Judd, Chevy Chase, and Joan Van Arkansas. Scores stayed low, though. They were never even half as many as Carson. The show was cut from 90 minutes to 60 minutes by CBS. The next episode was on March 30, 1990, and Rush Limbaugh was a guest host. He got into a heated argument with the crowd about abortion rights. People were shocked. The show was called off by CBS on April 9, 1990. Sajak didn't even show up in the last episode. Even though it hurt, he had been through worse, so he kept going. Between 1984 and 1989, he also showed up on Super Password more than 65 times during this time. He figured out clues, laughed with other players, and in one episode, he won $25,000 in the cash word bonus round. They worked together in an episode in September 1985, and he showed a competitive side that no one saw coming. People saw him as more than just a host because of how well he played games and timed his moves. He even shocked fans again when he made an appearance on the commish in November 1992. In an episode called The Two Faces of Ed, he played analyst Brian Brandon. During a long story arc, his character helped solve a murder case. People liked it because he was funny and serious at the same time, and he let parts of his Will image show. It was an odd mix, but it worked, and people still talk about it. Then there was another April Fool's joke in 1997. This time, Sajak was a player on Wheel of Fortune, which was hosted by Alex Trebek. Sajak won $50,000 and gave it all to good causes. In the fall of that year, he led an episode of Jeopardy! Those two pranks showed how fun he could be when he wasn't acting like himself. People loved those parts of his work and thought they showed that even famous people can break the rules and have fun with their legacy. Pat Sajak's story kept getting better in a way that felt steady at first and then history-making all of a sudden. From May 2019, when he quietly passed Bob Barker as the longest-running host of a game show, it all began. In the past. The record was confirmed by Guinness World Records after 35 years and 198 days of running Wheel of Fortune. On March 28, 2019, Kimberly Partrick gave him the plaque. He had been with Vanna White for more than 7,000 shows by that point. On May 8, the moment played. The party felt warm because Vanna had been with him since 1982. Fans could feel the past of their relationship in the room, as it had been going on longer than many Hollywood marriages. More moments kept adding up. In 1993, he got his first Daytime Emmy for being the Best Game Show Host. Then again in 1998 and 1997. 3 wins, 16 nods, and 2 nominations for Primetime Emmys. It wasn't until 2024 that he got his last win. Because it had been 26 years since his last win, it almost shocked everyone. It came during the Creative Arts Emmys and felt like the end of a career that wouldn't go away. People in the business world admired him so much that they gave him an award for Lifetime Achievement in 2011. He was now a normal part of American TV. No matter how long he was away from the main show, he never really left. He kept hosting Celebrity Wheel of Fortune from 2021 to 2025 after leaving regular Wheel in 2024. They were made in 2024 and aired from April 30, 2025, to June 10, 2025. That run was full of big players. Chris Brown, Chance the Rapper, Tiffany Haddish, Joe Manganiello, Dionne Warwick, and Matt Walsh. Fans paid close attention because they knew these were his last times as a host on TV. ABC pushed it like it was a big deal because they called it his last spin. The shows could be watched on Hulu along with Jeopardy! Master, giving Vanna and him one more chance to be together. Aside from the bright studio lights, another part of his life kept growing while all of this was going on. He had been vice chair of the Hillsdale College Board for more than 15 years before becoming chair in 2019. He gave more than $500,000 to its programs and openly supported its goal to be conservative. By writing and speaking out in National Review, he questioned the accepted view on climate change and took public stands that helped shape the school's character. With his money, scholarships were made possible, and the school grew. His guidance made a big difference in the future of the college. Even earlier, in 2005, he surprised a lot of people by putting money into the Golden Baseball League. It was more than just a quiet venture. It was fun for him to be a part of the league and call the plays during games. He paid more attention to the league in its early years because he loved sports and had worked in the media. It showed that he liked things other than puzzles and prize wheels. After that, there were times when people laughed for no reason. From 2017 to 2024, he read Christmas stories during the candlelight processional at Epcot for tens of thousands of people. He did the voice of a singing bust in the 2021 Muppets Haunted Mansion show called Small Roles. Still, they told people that he was charming no matter where he was. But things weren't always easy. Pat Sajak put contestant Fred Fletcher Jackson in a headlock on live TV in March 2023. It was a crazy event that made news across the country. He had just won $75,000 and was having fun with his dad when Sajak ran up and put him in a wrestler-style hold for fun. He even asked other wrestlers if they wanted him to hit Fred in the face. On March 21, 2023, social media went crazy. Some people laughed, while others thought it was rude. There were clips all over E!News, Fox News, and a huge number of YouTube sites. Officials from the network are said to have warned him about physical stunts afterward. Even though Fred said he didn't mind, the argument went on for days. In just a few months, another event stood out. Angela, a contestant, got $11,900 on January 16, 2024, and she was very happy about it. Sajak suddenly told them to shut up because he looked stressed. The clip went viral right away. Some people who watched said it was a joke. Some people said it was rude and aimed at a woman who was just enjoying a win. Because Angela was black, the event led to more in-depth talks about respect and tone. There was a lot of talk about it on Newsweek, Fox News, and many social media sites. Even though Sajak didn't mean to hurt anyone, the fight got louder than it was on the show. Before that, in February 2021, he said, instead of I see, to imitate a contestant's lisp. It was a joke and only took a minute. People in the studio laughed. The internet did not. People on Twitter said it was hurtful. It was in the news at the Wrap and Fox News. He said sorry, but the incident served as a warning of how dangerous it can be to be funny on live TV. Then something bigger than any debate happened in life. On November 8, 2019, he got up and went for a normal walk with his daughter Maggie. Within minutes, he was on his back because his stomach hurt so much. When they got him to the hospital quickly, they found that his intestine was stopped. His blood pressure dropped so low that surgery had to be put off. He told me later that he thought he was going to die. He was sick for 2 weeks, so Vanna took over presenting for that time. His family was shocked by what happened. He wasn't ready for it, and it made him think about all the things he had given up to build his job. He looked up at the ceiling and thought about all the things he had missed in the days after surgery. His daughter's birthday, his son Patrick's big steps, and even his wedding anniversary to Leslie Brown, whom he married in 1989 after a divorce in the 1970s. It was in appearances that he talked about these regrets. He and his family went to treatment after the scare. And made him think about how often he had been gone for tapings, even though they had a second place in Los Angeles. He said he would be there more. He said he would slow down. He felt those regrets for a long time. Maggie became a social reporter on Wheel of Fortune in 2021, which made him feel both proud and guilty. She had grown up without him for the most part. He felt the weight of the times he had missed when he saw his son become a doctor. He hadn't paid attention to a part of himself for years until the surgery. Fame had taken the place of family. So, on June 12, 2023, he said he was quitting after 41 seasons. On June 7, 2024, his last show ran. After the show was over, he thanked Vanna for giving him 8,000 episodes. For a short time, the office was quiet. It wasn't just the end of a show. He had been dead for decades. It was clear on his face when he talked about how the surgery that almost killed him had changed everything. He said he'd rather quit early than have another medical emergency on stage and pass out. Even though he was worth $52 million, he said that no amount of money could make him risk his health again. He stayed in touch as an advisor until 2026, even after he took a step back. Held on as host of Celebrity Wheel until June 2025. But in 2025, he told the truth, which shocked everyone. He said he was angry that he was kicked out because of his age. Not many famous people say things like that. Fans paid close attention. It showed a weak side that isn't often seen. He talked about the beginning of his time in Vietnam and even brought up a bad radio show for President Nixon in 1969. He talked about mistakes he made on radio and times of stress that had built up over decades. People should leave before it's too late, he said.